Traders, how are you? With Marcello. Today we're going to be doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. We have floods, it seems like, everywhere. And then at the same time, we have the southwest of the United States literally going completely dry. Market hitting records, Bitcoin finally coming back. Let's go ahead and get started. So the overall premise for the week this week was the FOMC statement. We had the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq hit record highs. Then on Wednesday, we had the FOMC meeting, and with the expectation and what they, let's say their posture about the interest rates, that's what caused the actual markets to come down, and especially commodities, right? Especially gold, silver had a nice big down day. I have some nice purchases here. I don't know if you can see because of the... Oh yeah, you can, there you go. It's a little bit blurry, but it's in there. So I got myself some gold, because probably not gonna stay here very long. And overall for the week, the markets in the US were negative. And that was because of the reason, because the Fed was stating that they're going to most likely increase interest rates much faster than everybody expected. Overseas market news, Istanbul was the biggest loser in Europe at just over 5%. Most of the European markets were all down. Latin American markets also were much lower, Canada being a negative 0.09%. I don't know if you guys seen what's happening in Canada. They canceled the election supposedly because of the pandemic. So I'm gonna start calling Canada the communist country of Canada. That's what they should call them, a CCC. Anyway, in the Middle East, South Africa was the biggest loser there. That market was mixed. That went down about 3.18%. And then we have Asia and the Far East, mostly mixed as well, with Australia being the mostly negative market at 2.82%. Bitcoin, the almighty savior Elon Musk, has decided to share with everybody that he didn't sell all his Bitcoin. He stated that he only sold 10% of it, and he actually might be willing to accept the Bitcoin if we can go ahead and get the energy situation dialed down. Because remember, you guys, part of the reason why we had that huge drop in Bitcoin was not only the situation with China and the miners, which I'll explain in just a moment, but it was also because everybody thought that Elon Musk actually sold his Bitcoin. And I got my notes here on my phone. I know it's really empty in the back. I'm just in the process of moving, so sorry for the background if it's really empty. So Elon Musk said he only sold 10%. He might look at buying it, or accepting payments in the future. Obviously, we also had El Salvador declare. I was going to do a video on that to kind of talk about the advantages and disadvantages. El Salvador declared Bitcoin as money, and being that they have a lot of renewable energy due to the geothermal energy from the volcanoes, which is 0%, it's renewable, let's call it, right? That would be great for Bitcoin, especially if a lot of miners go down there. Now, in May, China decided that it didn't want to have any of the miners in China. Anywhere between about 65 to 75% of all the miners in the world are in China, and now they're starting to kick them out. That was part of the reason why we had the big drop, if you guys remember the recap that I did for that week. And now a lot of them are actually moving to Texas, the great free state, no permit needed to carry a gun now, Texas. And so it's a great situation for the miners because Texas has one of the lowest electricity rates in the world. And kind of funny how Texas is having all these electrical problems, right? Now they're, again, because of the heat, there's an overload on the system. They supposedly have some problems with it. So now a lot of people, or the miners, I should say, of China are moving to Texas. And Texas now is starting to build their renewable energy platform, which is at about 20% wind right now. So as they continue to go renewable as well, will be great for the miners because essentially it won't be harmful for the environment, according to Elon Musk. Other than that, Bitcoin for the week is lower. It's down 1.52%. It finished at just under 36,000. It is still up 21% for the year. Commodities, we haven't seen these high levels of commodities since 2019. We did have that drop in commodities. Part of the reason why was because China, a department in China, decided to go ahead and release from their strategic reserve, especially the commodities like copper and aluminum, to be able to slow the price increases, which have to do with shortages and also inflation, which we're going to get into that. There's a lot of news this week about the actual inflation that's happening, and it's not bueno for any of us. So the commodities collapsed. Oil rebounded quite a bit due to the expectations of the reopenings of the economy. Obviously, we have a lot of people getting vaccinated. That creates an expectation that things are going to open up. A lot of states and countries are starting to remove their mask mandates. If I'm not mistaken, I read that California was going to finally remove their mask mandate as well. And other than that, there's going to be an expectation of an increased demand for oil. So oil definitely recovered a lot better than the other commodities for the week. Oil went up 1.02% to 71.64. International crude, which is called Brent, went up 1.12% to 73.51. And in addition to that, we have a Louisiana federal judge that stated that Biden can't ban new oil leases on federal lands. So 13 states sued the federal government, stating that he had no right to do that. It has to pass through Congress. Obviously, they need a much bigger majority that they have now to be able to do that. And so that also created a great expectation for oil. Other than that, palladium crashed 11%. Platinum went down 7%. Those are two very important precious metals like gold and silver. Corn futures went down 6%, and also copper went down 4.8%. Precious metals, gold took quite a dip, 6.44%. It went to 1,765 an ounce. Silver went down 8.18% to $25.90. Financial and banking news, the National Statistics Office for the United Kingdom has stated that we've had the fastest growth in consumer prices since 2019. They went up 2.2% year over year in May. At the same time, we have the U.S. Labor Department reporting that the producer price index, so this is the cost of producing goods, went up by 6.6% year over year. And on top of that, the retail sales went down 1.3%. So let me kind of just map this out for you. The price to produce things in the US went up by 6.6%, and the amount of goods that people are buying went down 1.3%. Now, if you don't know how the economy in the United States works, almost 70%, 70, is people going out and buying stuff, consumer spending. So we have the cost of stuff going up 6.6%, highest rate since on record, and a 12-month increase. And then we have a lot of people buying less stuff because the consumer, the retail sales, which is people going out and buying stuff, went down 1.3%. So this isn't good for the economy at all. In political news, Israel, Netanyahu, the prime minister, ended his 12-year run after there was a new government that was formed. And in economic news, the initial U.S. unemployment claims unexpectedly went up last week to 412,000. We've had 6 weeks of decreases in the unemployment. A lot of states now are starting to remove the federal COVID unemployment benefits as well. So the expectation was that it was actually going to go down, not up. This to me is one of the most important things that's happening in the economy, because I drove by, I think it was Sarasota last week, and I saw a sign for a Taco Bell that there was a $500 signing bonus if you got hired. Imagine that. So they're so desperate to hire people that they're paying you a bonus to get hired, because the government is paying you to not work. So a lot of people are making more money sitting at home with the COVID unemployment rather than going out and get a job. Now, the problem with that is these are the people that support our economy. The foundation of our economy, truckers and boxes and all this kind of stuff. These are the people that literally keep our economy going, and they don't want to work because they're getting stimulus. And who would want to work if you're getting money from the government, right? Well, government, right? It's actually taxpayer money. Other than that, we have a situation where the U.S. housing construction in May rose 3.6%, but the new permit activity went down 3%. So the sales of new houses is going up, but now the rate at which they are building houses has actually gone down. And part of the reason is costs are going up quite a bit. I heard one of my buddies down in Florida said that there's new housing construction company that's paying people $50,000 to get out of their contract because it would be cheaper for them to pay people to not continue building their house than to actually finish building it. Can you imagine? That's how Frankenstein right now the economy is. Other than that, in corporate news, AMC continues to explode. It went up 15.6% on Monday. Overall for the year, it's still up 2,638%. Microsoft is reporting that their new generation Windows is going to be out soon, so their stocks went up 15.72 so far this year. On Wednesday, they went up quite a bit. And Smith & Wesson, which is the arms maker, the gun maker with accessories, went up quite a bit as well due to the fact that they reported a 67.3% rise in gross revenue from the previous quarter year over year. So obviously, things are getting hairy out there. People want to get a gun. In trade news, UK government is announcing on Tuesday that they signed a free trade agreement with Australia. This is great because they can sell a lot of products without any extra taxes or tariffs. to Australia. That's supporting about 3.5 million jobs in the UK. In technology, on Wednesday, Facebook reported that they developed a new artificial intelligence system that's going to be able to identify whether a deep fake is actually real or not, and also where they actually came from. So I don't know if you guys know what deep fakes are, but it's when you see the face of, Mark Zuckerberg or somebody famous, and they're actually saying things, but it's not actually them. It's like a video image of them actually doing it, which is good because obviously there would be less scams. University of Oxford study is saying that an antibody combination of the US biotech's pill called Regeneron reduces the risk when given to hospitalized patients with severe COVID-19 whose own immune system has failed to mount a response. So that's good for getting everything open up again. And global auto companies are preparing to shift from internal combustion engines or gas engines over to electric. The only problem, however, is that electric vehicles still cost a lot. The main cost of an electric car is the battery, which is about 30% of the entire cost of the car, and it's still a lot more expensive than a gas car, which is part of the reason why a lot of countries around the world are offering big subsidies and incentives to be able to get the cost down and start getting people to buy those cars as well. In investment news, the EU and the US have solved their 70-year dispute concerning the government subsidies with Airbus and the United States company Boeing. Essentially here, if you guys don't know the history, what happened was European Union supposedly was offering subsidies to Airbus to be able to unfairly compete with Boeing because Boeing is from the US and wasn't getting the same subsidies from the US government. So it's ending the reciprocal tariffs that was imposed by the Trump administration, and that both sides have agreed to suspend the tariffs for 5 years while they settle the dispute. International events, the Philippines has decided to continue to have the US troops there in Philippine territory. This is mainly due to China encroaching in the South China Sea. A lot of people are having trouble with China because China is saying that international waters are actually theirs when, places like the Philippines, for example, there's an island that's literally on their territorial waters, and China is coming in and saying that it's theirs. So they've renewed that contract, obviously because of, Philippines is no match for China. And in the daily new COVID-19 cases, the United States is in the lead with the total deaths of 600,000, unfortunately. The United States is also in the lead with the number of infections at 33.5 million cases. A lot of analysts are saying that this is due to the great testing system that we have in the US. Brazil is number 2 worldwide with 488,000 deaths, and India at 377,000. And in unusual facts this week, Biden signed a bill to make Juneteenth a national holiday. This is when, in 1865, Union General Gordon Granger arrived with federal troops in Galveston, Texas, freeing the last of America's slaves. It passed with flying colors. Most of both Republicans and all Democrats actually voted for this, which is great. Thursday, the first astronauts in China's new space station are going up and staying 3 months for the first time on their space station. So this is China's way of trying to become a space power like the US and also Russia. And researchers at McGill University and INRAE found that between 51 to 60% of the 64 kilometers of rivers on Earth actually go empty periodically. We have a situation where we're getting a lot of floods around the world. I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about that. Remember, I started sharing the natural disasters after so many were happening. And we also have a serious drought right now. That's a record drought in the Southwest, Arizona, California, Nevada area. So that's going to be pretty interesting because if they periodically go empty, then we might have a situation with water because obviously we all need water to live. And in natural disasters, the U.S. Southwest, as I mentioned, is having its worst drought in 1,200 years. Lake Mead, which I talked to you guys last week at the Hoover Dam, is at 34%, which is actually a record low. There's another dam at a lake called Lake Oroville. It's also at its lowest ever, and they're saying that if it goes down below a critical level, which it most likely will this summer, they're going to have to shut down the actual power plant. It's a dam that provides power through hydro, and it provides power to 800,000 people. So we have all of these things kind of just encroaching where, in places like California, we have this extreme drought. In Mississippi this week, they reported that there was so much water that it destroyed a lot of crops in the Mississippi. So all over the world, we have shortages in food. So the preppers were probably right. You should probably look at stocking up for some of these things. Snowfall in Cordoba, Argentina, which is one of the most beautiful cities in Argentina, in my opinion. Snowfall fell for the 7th time in the last 100 years. Oaxaca, Mexico, the second largest lake in Mexico, has completely gone dry. That's actually pretty interesting. Well, unfortunate for them. Obviously, I wouldn't want that to happen, but we got serious problems with the climate right now. In Victoria, Australia, there's huge spider building cobwebs to be able to go ahead and avoid the flooding that's happening in that area of the world as well. If you guys remember, they have the flooding, the rat infestations. They just can't seem to get a break there in Australia. Hopefully they'll put the video here where you guys can see the cobwebs just literally floating in the air. It's actually pretty impressive. Massive Saharan dust storm is coming from Africa, starting to hit the Caribbean and Florida. There was already I saw some beautiful sunrise pictures on the east coast of Florida due to the sandstorm. And I already mentioned the lake that actually dried up in Mexico. That's your news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm if you guys like these videos. And don't forget to leave all the questions with hashtag AskMarcello. We'll see you next week.